The sweat burned Victor Quinn's eyes as he sprinted across the grassy field, lungs searing with each breath, while the alien drill sergeant bellowed something incomprehensible through its translator. Victor had been part of the Interstellar Military Exchange Program for exactly 3 weeks, and this morning marked his first joint training exercise with the Krexian warriors, an alien species renowned throughout the galaxy for their military prowess. Faster human. Your species claims endurance as an evolutionary advantage. Prove it. The drill sergeant, a 7-foot-tall reptilian creature named Graz, shouted as Victor pushed himself harder. Behind him, 6 Krexian soldiers struggled to keep pace, their normally gray scales flushing a deep purple from exertion. Victor could hear their labored breathing, a whistling sound through their dual breathing passages. Despite their superior strength and natural armor, the Krexians were clearly suffering. 3 more miles, Graz announced, and Victor heard a collective groan from the aliens behind him. The morning sun beat down mercilessly as they ran across the training grounds of Joint Base Horizon, Earth's premier military facility for interspecies cooperation. What had started as a standard morning workout for Victor had become an unexpected test of human physiological advantages. Captain Trex, the Krexian officer who had been paired with Victor for the exchange program, pulled alongside him. His muscular frame towered over Victor's 6-foot stature, but the alien's movement had become labored. You find this easy. Trex gasped, his translator struggling to keep up with his breathless speech. Victor managed a tight smile. Not easy, just routine. We call this cardio day back home. We call it the endurance test it is used to break the weakest recruits. Trex's eyes, vertical slits of amber, widened in what Victor had learned was respect. Victor hadn't expected to impress anyone today. When Earth had joined the Galactic Coalition 3 years ago, humans discovered they were physically weaker than most spacefaring species. The Krexians could lift 3 times their body weight, and their skin could deflect small-caliber ammunition. But what humans lacked in strength, they made up for in stamina. 1 more mile. Graz announced, and another Krexian soldier dropped to his knees, scales now a deep violet color that Victor recognized as a sign of extreme exhaustion. Zenter is down, Trex noted, not slowing his pace. Not surprising, he boasted about beating the human yesterday. Victor glanced back at the fallen Krexian being attended to by medical staff. Is he going to be okay? His pride will suffer more than his body, Trex wheezed. But your concern is, noted. As they approached the finish line, Victor found himself alone with Trex. The other Krexians had either fallen behind or dropped out entirely. Graz stood at the finish, his posture rigid with what Victor interpreted as disbelief. With a final push, Victor crossed the line, followed seconds later by Trex, who immediately dropped to one knee, his breathing harsh and irregular. Water, Victor gasped to a nearby human aide who tossed him 2 bottles. He drank one and offered the other to Trex, who accepted it gratefully. Graz approached, his expression unreadable to human eyes. Quinn, you completed the endurance test without faltering. This is unexpected. Victor wiped sweat from his brow. Like I told Trex, sir, back home we call this cardio day. We do it twice a week. A ripple of surprise passed through the gathered Krexian officers. Graz turned to them, speaking rapidly in his native language, the clicks and hisses too complex for Victor to follow. Trex, now recovered enough to stand, placed a heavy hand on Victor's shoulder. You have earned respect today, Quinn. Our warriors train their entire lives to complete that course. Victor shrugged. Humans evolved as persistence hunters. We can't outmuscle prey, but we can outrun it until it collapses from exhaustion. Graz approached again. Quinn, I wish to understand this cardio day further. It may have military applications for our joint forces. Victor nodded, realizing that what had seemed ordinary to him had just opened a new dimension in interspecies military cooperation. Happy to help, sir. Though I should warn you, tomorrow is leg day. That might actually kill your troops. The morning after the run, Victor woke to an alert on his communication device. He had been summoned to General Harker's office immediately. Throwing on his uniform, he hustled across the base, wondering what could warrant such an early meeting. General Harker was not alone. Beside her stood High Commander Verdix, the senior Krexian military liaison to Earth. Both looked unusually serious. "Quinn," General Harker said, "take a seat." Victor sat, trying to hide his nervousness. "General, High Commander, yesterday's training exercise has caused quite a stir," General Harker began. "High Commander Verdix has some questions." The tall Krexian stepped forward. Unlike most of his species, Verdix's scales were a pale blue, denoting his advanced age and rank. "Lieutenant Quinn, I witnessed the recordings of yesterday's endurance test. What you accomplished is significant." Victor shifted uncomfortably. "Thank you, sir, but I was just doing what any human soldier would." "Precisely the point," Verdix said, his translator rendering his voice with perfect clarity. "Your species possesses natural endurance capabilities that exceed those of Krexian elite forces. This was not included in the biological data shared with the Coalition." "We didn't think it was special," General Harker interjected. "Humans have always valued endurance sports. Marathons, triathlons, these are common competitions on Earth." Verdix's eye slits narrowed. "The military applications are substantial. The Coalition faces threats from the Dravid hegemony at our outer borders. Their tactics rely on wearing down opposition through prolonged engagements. Krexian forces excel in burst combat but falter in extended campaigns." Victor began to understand. "You want to incorporate humans into your long-range patrols." "More than that," Verdix said. "I am proposing a specialized joint task force. Krexian strength combined with human endurance could change the nature of our defensive capabilities." General Harker nodded. "Which is why we're assigning you to help develop a training program. You'll work directly with Captain Trex to create something that utilizes the strengths of both species." Victor's heart raced with excitement. This was far beyond what he'd expected when he volunteered for the exchange program. "I'd be honored, but I'm just a lieutenant. Wouldn't someone with more experience? You've already established rapport with the Krexian troops," General Harker cut in. "And you understand both our physiological differences and similarities. You're the right person for this job." "There is one more thing," Verdix added. "The Krexian High Command is skeptical. They wish to see a demonstration of this program before committing resources. You have 2 weeks to prepare a joint team for evaluation." 2 weeks. Victor swallowed hard. "Yes, sir, I'll get started right away." As Victor left the office, his mind raced with possibilities and challenges. Creating an effective training program that played to the strengths of both species while accounting for their weaknesses would be difficult enough. Doing it in 2 weeks seemed nearly impossible. But then again, humans specialized in doing the impossible. Victor found Trex in the base's mess hall, surrounded by a group of Krexian soldiers who fell silent as Victor approached. The atmosphere was tense but not hostile, more curious than anything else. "Quinn," Trex acknowledged him. "I received the orders. We are to create this joint training program." Victor nodded, taking a seat across from the alien captain. 2 weeks isn't much time." "Krexians adapt quickly," Trex said. His fellow soldiers made soft, clicking sounds that Victor had learned was their equivalent of agreement. "So do humans," Victor replied, "but we need to be smart about this. We can't just throw humans and Krexians into the same exercises and expect good results. We have different strengths." Trex leaned forward. "You have studied our physiology." "Some basics. You have greater muscle density, reinforced skeletal structures, and more efficient oxygen processing for short bursts of activity. What you lack is the ability to regulate body temperature efficiently during prolonged exertion." One of the other Krexians, whom Victor recognized as Lieutenant Kazix, spoke up. "The human speaks truth. Our ancestors evolved in cool caverns, emerging only for short hunts. Prolonged exposure to heat while exerting ourselves is challenging." Victor nodded. "Meanwhile, humans evolved in hot savannas, chasing prey for hours until it collapsed from heat exhaustion. We're built for the long haul, but we can't match your raw power or speed." Trex's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "So we must design training that builds on these complementary traits." Krexians providing power and humans providing persistence. Exactly, Victor agreed. And we need to start immediately. I've reserved the South training field for this afternoon. The group of Krexians exchanged looks. Victor had learned enough about their body language to recognize hesitation. Is there a problem? He asked. Trex straightened. Some of my soldiers are concerned about training under a human. It is not traditional. Victor considered this. I understand. How about we co-lead? You handle the strength components, I'll handle the endurance. We'll show them how the combination works by example. Trex's scales rippled slightly, a sign of approval. Acceptable. We begin at the 3rd hour past midday. As the Krexians filed out of the mess hall, Victor grabbed a tray of food, his mind already mapping out possible training regimens. This wasn't just about creating a program, it was about forging a new kind of military cooperation between species. The implications extended far beyond joint base horizon. He had just finished eating when his communication device pinged with a message from Dr. Penelope Nash, the base's xenobiologist. Lieutenant Quinn, I understand you're developing a joint training program. I'd like to offer my assistance with monitoring physiological responses. My lab at 1300 hours, Victor sent a quick confirmation. Having a xenobiologist on the team would be invaluable, especially one with Dr. Nash's reputation for groundbreaking research on comparative alien physiology. At precisely 1300 hours, Victor entered the xenobiology lab, a sterile white space filled with equipment he couldn't begin to identify. Dr. Nash was hunched over a holographic display showing what appeared to be a Krexian cardiovascular system. Dr. Nash, Victor called out. She turned, revealing a woman in her mid-30s with short brown hair and intense green eyes. Lieutenant Quinn, thank you for coming. Victor approached the display. That's a Krexian heart. Hearts, plural, she corrected. They have a primary and secondary cardiac system. The secondary kicks in during periods of extreme exertion, which is why they can achieve such incredible feats of strength for short durations. But it burns them out quickly, Victor surmised. Exactly. Their cooling system can't keep up with the heat generated by both hearts working at full capacity. She swiped the display, bringing up human anatomy. Whereas humans have numerous adaptations for heat regulation, sweat glands, efficient blood vessel dilation, and a cardiovascular system designed for endurance rather than power. Victor nodded. How can we use this information in our training program? Dr. Nash smiled. I've been developing monitoring equipment that can track the real-time physiological status of different species. It would allow you to push your trainees to their optimal limits without risking injury. She handed him a small, flexible patch. This adheres to any surface skin, scales, exoskeletons. It monitors everything from core temperature to lactic acid buildup to respiratory efficiency. Victor examined the device. This could be a game changer. We could tailor exercises to target specific weaknesses in each species. Precisely, Dr. Nash agreed. And I can provide real-time feedback during your training sessions plus detailed analysis afterward. You want to be part of the field training? Victor asked, surprised. Lieutenant, this is potentially the most significant interspecies military collaboration since Earth joined the coalition. Wild horses couldn't keep me away. She paused. That's an Earth expression. It means I get it, Victor said with a smile, and we'd be lucky to have you. We start this afternoon at 1500 hours. I'll be there with my equipment, she promised. As Victor left the lab, he felt more confident. With Dr. Nash's scientific expertise backing them up, they had a better chance of creating something truly effective. The South training field was bathed in afternoon sunlight when Victor arrived. Trex and 12 Krexian soldiers were already present, arranged in perfect formation. Next to them stood 6 human soldiers, looking considerably less imposing but no less disciplined. Dr. Nash was setting up a portable monitoring station at the edge of the field, assisted by 2 lab technicians. Victor approached Trex. Are your troops ready? The Krexian captain's scales rippled with what Victor had learned was amusement. They are curious about what the human has planned for them. Victor addressed the assembled soldiers. Today we begin something new. The goal isn't for Krexians to become humans or humans to become Krexians. It's to create a fighting force that utilizes the best of both species. He gestured to Dr. Nash. Doctor. Nash will be monitoring your physiological responses throughout training. The patches you'll be wearing will help us understand how to optimize our approach. After the soldiers were fitted with the monitoring patches, Victor and Trex led them through the first exercise, a series of short sprints combined with load-bearing exercises. The Krexians dominated the strength portions, but struggled when the activities extended beyond a few minutes. The humans showed the opposite pattern. Interesting, Dr. Nash murmured as she studied her readouts. The Krexian secondary heart activates much earlier than we thought, and look at how quickly their core temperature rises. By the end of the 2-hour session, both groups were exhausted, but Victor noticed something promising. They were watching each other, studying techniques and approaches. Tomorrow, Victor announced, we'll focus on heat adaptation for the Krexians and power output for the humans. Dismissed. As the soldiers dispersed, Trex approached Victor. Your methods are unusual, but I see their purpose. And what purpose is that? Victor asked, to make us understand our limitations by experiencing them firsthand. Trex's voice carried an unexpected note of respect. A Krexian instructor would simply tell us our weaknesses. You make us feel them. Sometimes that's the only way to truly learn, Victor replied. Dr. Nash joined them, datapad in hand. Gentlemen, the preliminary results are fascinating. With targeted training, I believe we can improve Krexian heat tolerance by at least 30% within our 2-week window. And human power output? Trex inquired. That's trickier, she admitted. We can't fundamentally change human musculature in 2 weeks. But we can optimize technique and energy expenditure to make the most of what we have. Victor nodded thoughtfully. It's not about making humans as strong as Krexians or Krexians as enduring as humans. It's about teaching each group when to lead and when to support. Like a relay race, Doctor. Nash suggested. Each runner handles the section they're best suited for. Exactly, Victor agreed. Tomorrow, we'll focus on transition protocols, how to smoothly hand off responsibilities based on changing battlefield conditions. The next 12 days followed a punishing schedule. Mornings began with what the Krexians called the endurance test, and what the humans casually referred to as cardio day, a long-distance run designed to build the Krexians' stamina while reinforcing the humans' natural advantage. Afternoons focused on strength training, with Krexians teaching humans techniques to maximize their relatively limited strength, while learning from humans how to pace themselves for extended engagements. Dr. Nash's monitoring equipment proved invaluable, allowing them to fine-tune the training program based on real physiological data rather than guesswork. By the end of the first week, the improvements were already visible. The Krexian core temperature regulation has improved by 18%, Dr. Nash reported during their daily debrief. And the human squad is showing a 12% increase in power output efficiency. Victor studied the holographic display showing the comparative data. What about team integration metrics? Dr. Nash swiped to a new display. That's where we're seeing the most dramatic improvements. Look at these combat simulation results. When working independently, each species performs as expected, but in mixed pairs, their effectiveness increases by nearly 40%. Trex, who had been silently observing, spoke up. The warriors are beginning to anticipate each other's limitations and compensate automatically. It is impressive. Victor allowed himself a small smile. But will it be enough to convince the high command? We will know soon enough, Trex replied. They arrive in 6 days. The training intensified as the evaluation date approached. Victor pushed both groups harder, introducing more complex scenarios that required seamless cooperation between humans and Krexians. On the 10th day, disaster struck. They were conducting a mountain training exercise when a rockslide caught 2 soldiers, 1 human, Sergeant Rodriguez, and 1 Krexian, Lieutenant Kazix. Victor led the rescue team, finding both soldiers trapped beneath heavy boulders. The Krexian soldiers easily lifted the rocks off their comrade, but Kazakh's leg was severely broken, the bone protruding through his scaled skin. "Get him to medical," Victor ordered, turning his attention to Rodriguez, who was pinned beneath an even larger boulder. The human soldiers tried to lift it, but couldn't budge it. Without hesitation, two Krexians stepped in, easily lifting the massive rock. Rodriguez's chest was crushed, his breathing shallow and labored. "We need immediate evacuation," Victor shouted into his comm unit. What happened next surprised everyone. While waiting for the medical transport, the Krexian soldiers formed a protective circle around Rodriguez, using their bodies to shield him from the sun while a human medic worked to stabilize him. At the same time, the human soldiers helped Kazakh regulate his body temperature, applying cooling packs to prevent his system from overheating due to trauma, a technique they had learned during training. Back at the base medical facility, Dr. Nash met Victor outside the treatment rooms. "They'll both recover," she assured him. "Rodriguez has multiple broken ribs and a punctured lung, but the surgical team is repairing the damage now. Kazakh's leg fracture is severe, but Krexian bone regeneration is remarkable. He'll be walking within days." Victor slumped against the wall, relief washing over him. "How did this happen? The safety protocols, nature is unpredictable," Dr. Nash said gently. "But what's remarkable is how they responded. The integrated training worked exactly as intended. Each species automatically compensated for the other's weaknesses without being told." Victor nodded slowly, "but with two soldiers down, we're short-handed for the evaluation." "Perhaps," a deep voice interrupted, "this incident is evaluation enough." Victor turned to find High Commander Verdict standing in the corridor, accompanied by General Harker. "High Commander," Victor straightened immediately. "I wasn't aware you had arrived early. I wish to observe without the formality of an official inspection," Verdict explained. "I have been watching your training sessions for the past 2 days." Victor swallowed hard. "Sir, today's incident was a more effective demonstration than any choreographed exercise could have been," Verdict's finished. "Your integrated team functioned as a single unit in a crisis situation. Each species instinctively provided what the other needed." General Harker stepped forward. "The High Commander has already contacted Krexian High Command with his recommendation." "Which is?" Victor asked cautiously. "Full implementation of your joint training program across all Coalition mixed species units," Verdict stated. Beginning immediately, Victor stared in disbelief. "Sir, we've only just started developing the protocols." "There's still so much refinement needed, then you will continue that work," Verdict declared. But as the newly appointed Director of Interspecies Combat Integration, Victor blinked. "Director, but I'm just a lieutenant." General Harker smiled. "Not anymore, Major Quinn. Your promotion comes with the new assignment." As the implications sank in, Victor realized that what had begun as a simple morning run cardio day for humans, the dreaded endurance test for Krexians, had evolved into something that could fundamentally change Coalition military doctrine. 3 days later, both injured soldiers had recovered enough to attend the official ceremony establishing the Interspecies Combat Integration Division. Rodriguez was in a wheelchair, his chest still heavily bandaged, while Kazakh stood with the aid of a high-tech brace supporting his healing leg. The ceremony was brief but meaningful. Representatives from 12 coalition species attended, all interested in how the human Krexian training model might apply to their own forces. As Victor accepted his new insignia from General Harker, he caught Trex's eye in the audience. The Krexian captain gave a subtle nod of approval, high praise from a species not known for emotional displays. After the ceremony, Victor found a moment alone with Trex and Dr. Nash on the observation deck, overlooking the training fields where it had all begun. "So," Victor said, "you'll be returning to the Krexian fleet." Trex shook his head. "I have been assigned as your deputy director. The High Command believes our partnership has proven effective." Dr. Nash smiled. "And I've been appointed chief scientific advisor to the division." It seems we'll be working together for the foreseeable future. Victor gazed out at the training grounds where new groups of humans and Krexians were already beginning joint exercises, supervised by instructors from their original test group. We still have so much to learn about each other, he mused. Indeed, Trex agreed. But we have made a beginning. My warriors no longer dread the endurance test. They speak of cardio day with the same casual acceptance as your human soldiers. And the humans? Dr. Nash asked. They've started calling the Krexian strength drills beast mode, Victor said with a chuckle. I think that's a compliment. Trex's scales rippled with amusement. Language adapts as quickly as training protocols. Below them, a mixed group of human and Krexian soldiers jogged past, moving at a pace that accommodated both species' capabilities. They weren't segregated by species but intermixed, with stronger runners helping those who struggled regardless of whether they were human or Krexian. That's it, Victor said softly. That's what success looks like, Dr. Nash nodded. Not identical capabilities but complementary ones, each making the other better. The Dravid hegemony will find this new coalition force surprising, Trex noted. Their strategy has always depended on exploiting our species' individual weaknesses. They won't be expecting forces that have turned those weaknesses into strengths, Victor agreed. As the sun began to set over Joint Base horizon, casting long shadows across the training fields, Victor Quinn reflected on how far they had come in just a few short weeks. What had begun as a simple morning run brutal for one species, routine for another had revealed a fundamental truth about interspecies cooperation. It wasn't about making everyone the same. It was about understanding and valuing differences, then using them to create something stronger than either could achieve alone. The new division's unofficial motto, suggested by Sergeant Rodriguez from his hospital bed, seemed particularly apt. Your weakness, my strength. Together, unstoppable. 6 months later, the first fully integrated human Krexian combat unit was deployed to the coalition's disputed border with the Dravid hegemony. Their mission was peaceful, a show of force rather than an engagement, but the message was clear. The coalition was evolving, becoming stronger through diversity rather than despite it, and it had all started with a simple realization. What one species called an impossible endurance test, another called just another cardio day. Victor stood in the command center, watching the deployment on the large tactical display. Beside him, Trex monitored the biometric data from the field units, while Dr. Nash analyzed performance metrics in real time. They're maintaining optimal efficiency ratios, Doctor. Nash reported satisfaction evident in her voice. The Dravid scouts are observing from Sector 7, Trex noted. They appear confused by our deployment pattern. Victor smiled. Good, confusion leads to caution. Caution leads to dialogue rather than confrontation. General Harker joined them, reviewing the tactical display with experienced eyes. The Dravid flagship is hailing the coalition blockade. They're requesting a diplomatic channel. Already, Victor asked, surprised. Intelligence had suggested the Dravid would test the coalition's resolve for at least several weeks before considering negotiations. Apparently, their scouts reported some disturbing observations about our new integrated units, General Harker said with a small smile. Something about Krexians running endurance patterns while humans demonstrated unexpected strength capabilities. Trex's scales rippled with what Victor now recognized as pride. They cannot categorize us, cannot predict us. This makes us dangerous or valuable allies, Dr. Nash suggested. The Dravid might be reconsidering whether confrontation is worth the risk. As the diplomatic channel opened and negotiations began, Victor Quinn reflected that sometimes the most powerful weapons weren't weapons at all, but new ways of thinking, new approaches to old problems. And it had all started with a simple morning run.